Jennifer Thompson found herself in Target's Christmas aisle, clutching a 3-wick vanilla candle set. It was, technically, the 7th year in a row she was buying her own Christmas present. Sure, last year Mike had handed her a wrapped box with dangling silver earrings inside. But her reaction, "Honey, you know I can't wear dangly earrings in the classroom," had flattened his smile in seconds. By the end of the night, the earrings were back in their box, headed for the return counter. So when Jennifer stood there holding those candles, the truth hit her hard. For all practical purposes, she hadn't received a Christmas gift from her husband in years. She had trained him, unintentionally, that whatever he gave would never be good enough. That moment lit up a truth Jennifer had never seen before. Her marriage was like a garden she kept weeding but never watered. She had been so busy yanking out Mike's mistakes, pointing out better ways, correcting every detail, that she'd forgotten to nurture anything good. The thoughtfulness she once adored in him, his eagerness to make her happy, had shriveled under constant criticism. She wasn't just the gardener, she was the one killing the very flowers she longed to see bloom. I call it control suffocation. It feels logical. If we guide our partner toward better choices, they'll make better choices. But here's the emotional reality every correction whispers: I don't trust you. Every suggestion translates as, you're not good enough. And people don't grow under management. They shrink. Let's meet Amanda. She's 38, has a solid marketing career in tech, 2 kids, and a husband who remembers everyone's birthdays. On paper, it looks like the dream. But behind the smiling family photos, Amanda's marriage is suffocating. Slowly, quietly, the same way Jennifer's did. And the reason, exactly the same. That Tuesday evening, Emma sat at the kitchen table. Steve leaned in, patiently helping her with math. His way of explaining long division was different, but Emma was actually getting it. From the doorway, Amanda cut in. "No, Steve, that's not how they're teaching it this year. Emma, let me show you the right way." Emma's eyes flickered. She turned from Dad to Mom. Steve's hands dropped to his sides. The homework got done, but something far greater was broken. He walked away to his office in silence. That night, Emma didn't just learn division. She learned that Dad's way isn't the right way. Without knowing it, we teach our kids to dismiss the very person we want them to respect. Amanda thought she was helping Emma with schoolwork, but what Emma really learned was that Dad's judgment couldn't be trusted. The proof came that same evening. When Jake scraped his knee, he ran straight past Steve, who was sitting right there, and went to Mom. He'd already learned Mom handles the important stuff. Amanda was that coach who only pointed out mistakes. No praise, no encouragement, just correction. And what happened? Steve and the kids stopped trying. Why risk when effort only leads to criticism? That's why Steve seemed so passive. That's why he stopped taking initiative. Both women were operating from the same flawed logic. If I don't manage this, it won't get done right. Jennifer managed Mike's gift-giving until he just stopped giving. Amanda managed Steve's parenting until he just stopped parenting. That's what control does. It doesn't create excellence, it creates silence. When you spend all your energy pulling weeds, you forget to water the flowers. And then you wonder why nothing beautiful is growing. These weren't new, fragile marriages. Jennifer and Mike had been together 11 years. Steve and Amanda 12. These weren't seedlings, they were established gardens. And yet, instead of flourishing, they were withering. Not because of neglect, but because the conditions had become hostile. Plants don't thrive because we hover, correcting their growth. They thrive when they have good soil, sunlight, water, and the space to grow into what they're meant to be. So here's the shocking but simple truth. When you manage your partner like a project, you don't get more love. You get less of them. Jennifer overheard Mike on the phone with his brother while changing the oil in her car. "I don't know what she wants anymore, Dan. Everything I do is wrong. I planned a weekend last month." She found the confirmation email, redid the whole thing, said the hotel I picked didn't have good reviews. Then his voice dropped. "I think she'd be happier just handling everything herself." And Jennifer realized Mike wasn't being dramatic, he was being accurate. That very same week, Amanda watched Steve disappear into his home office right after dinner, skipping connection with the kids, skipping connection with her. When she asked if he was okay, Steve looked up with exhausted eyes and said, "I'm fine. You've got everything under control anyway." The words were neutral, but the message was crushing. I'm not needed here. Both women were confronting the same devastating truth. They had become the very thing that was suffocating their marriages. They weren't partners anymore. They were gardeners with shears in hand, clipping, correcting, pruning every move until the plants in their care stopped wanting to grow. Mike's natural thoughtfulness cut back. Steve's gentle confidence clipped away. The very qualities that had drawn them in, the spark that made them say yes in the first place, had gone dormant under the constant weight of correction. And now, standing in the silence of their homes, both women looked around and wondered why their gardens felt so barren, never realizing their own hands had been holding the shears all along. That recognition was brutal, but it also contained the first fragile seed of hope they'd felt in years. Because if their actions had helped create the desert, then perhaps their actions could help restore the garden. The problem was, unlearning habits that had been reinforced for years is not like flipping a switch. It feels foreign. It feels unnatural. It feels terrifying. Jennifer and Amanda were about to discover what every controlling gardener must. That cultivating love is not about force, but about trust. And their first attempts at this new way would be clumsy, awkward, uncertain, like trying to learn to write with your non-dominant hand. But still, it was a beginning. Amanda's first experiment happened on a quiet Thursday night at Jake's bedtime. Normally, she would hover making sure everything went exactly right. Teeth brushed, pajamas straight, lights dimmed, story read, sleep on schedule. That was her ritual, her control. But this night, she stayed downstairs, hands gripping the sink, ears tuned to the sounds above. At first, there was laughter. Then bouncing on the bed, more laughter, and then a loud thump. Her chest tightened. This wasn't how bedtime was supposed to sound. Every part of her wanted to rush in, to correct, to take over. But 20 minutes later, Steve appeared with Jake in his arms, both of them disheveled, both of them beaming. "He needed some water," Steve explained, still smiling. Jake's hair was wild, his pajamas twisted, his energy still buzzing. Amanda's instinct rose fast warned them about routines, about cranky mornings. But then she saw something else. Jake's spontaneous hug around both their waists, the quiet pride in Steve's eyes. And for the first time in years, she stopped herself. Instead, she simply said, "He looks happy. You both do." And in that moment, Amanda realized something life-changing. Letting go of control didn't create chaos. It created connection. The kind of connection her marriage had been starving for. And that was the real revelation. It wasn't about perfect routines or flawless execution. It was about creating space for love to flow. Amanda began to see that her grip on control had been choking out the very moments she wanted more of. laughter, closeness, ease. By loosening that grip, she discovered something startling. Steve didn't need her supervision to be a good father. In fact, without her interference, he was freer to be the dad Jake adored. It's a paradox most of us struggle with. We think control will bring us peace, but it's often surrender that makes peace possible. The mess, the noise, the imperfections, those are not signs of failure. They're often the raw materials of intimacy. Jennifer tried appreciation, but at first it felt awkward. When Mike took out the trash, she forced a smile. "Thank you for taking out the trash." "You punked." He gave her a puzzled look. You're welcome." And that's when she realized gratitude without heart doesn't connect. It's not about the chore, it's about the person. A few days later, she walked into the garage. Mike was bent over her car, grease on his hands, fixing it before she even asked. For the first time in years, she saw him. Not the oil, not the chore, the man, the quiet protector. "You always do this for me," she whispered. He looked up, startled. "Do what?" "Take care of me, keep me safe. I don't think I've ever thanked you for that." And in that moment, the air shifted, because genuine gratitude doesn't just fill the silence. It fills a marriage with love. The truth is, authentic appreciation isn't about saying thank you for chores. It's about seeing the heart behind the action. Jennifer's first attempts fell flat because she was only acknowledging the task, not the man. But in that garage, everything changed. She didn't just see oil being changed. She saw love bent over an engine on a Saturday morning. She saw a husband quietly protecting her. And that moment, that recognition was real. But change doesn't happen in a straight line. The very next week, Amanda walked into the dining room and froze. Steve was helping Emma with a school project on the solar system. Glue everywhere, crooked planets, total chaos. Her organized mind couldn't take it. "Emma, honey, let's clean this up and start over. We can make the planets more proportional." And just like that, the joy drained out of the room. Emma's face fell. Steve stepped back. "But I liked it," Emma whispered. "It looked like real space." That's when Amanda saw it. She had traded connection for perfection. That night, after Emma's perfect but lifeless solar system was done, Amanda found Steve in his office. "I'm sorry," she said. He sighed. "It's okay. You just want things to look good." But it wasn't okay. She saw it in his eyes. Amanda knew the truth. Every time she reached for control, she cut connection. Like a gardener who couldn't stop pruning, she kept snipping away at the very growth she longed to see. The hardest part wasn't knowing what to change. It was learning to live with the discomfort of not being in control. Jennifer faced her own test when Mike offered to plan their anniversary dinner. Every instinct screamed to take control, to send him reviews, to make sure it was done right. But instead, she took a breath and said, "That sounds wonderful. I trust you." Mike blinked. "Really? You don't want to choose together?" "No," she whispered against every impulse. "I want to be surprised by you." The principle was simple but brutal. Trust and control can't coexist. Every time Amanda fixed Steve's parenting, she was saying she didn't trust him. Every time Jennifer managed Mike's planning, she was telling him his choices weren't enough. Stepping back wasn't just about new actions. It meant a radical shift in belief that good outcomes could happen without their control. But the damage was already deep. Steve had learned to doubt himself. Mike had learned to stand back. Both men were so used to being corrected that they no longer trusted their own judgment. So Amanda and Jennifer weren't just changing habits, they were trying to breathe life back into the very confidence their criticism had buried. The breakthrough came on a rainy Saturday in March. Jennifer was in the kitchen when she heard Mike rummaging, frustrated. "What are you looking for?" she called. "That coupon for Romano's. I thought I'd make reservations for our anniversary." Tell? Her instinct flared instantly. Romano's was expensive. Maybe check other options. Maybe they weren't even open Thursdays. Normally, she would have said all that. But this time, she stopped herself. And with a shaky breath, she tried something new. "That sounds perfect. I love that." Mike froze, startled. "Really? You don't want to check the menu? Or maybe another place?" His question revealed years of training he expected correction. Jennifer took the leap. "Number, I trust you to choose something wonderful." Something remarkable happened. His whole posture changed. His eyes lit up. He smiled like a man who'd just been given back the keys to his own life. "Okay then, I'll handle everything." The dinner wasn't what Jennifer would have picked. A little Italian spot in a strip mall, checkered tablecloths, dim lights, soft piano. He'd remembered she loved tiramisu, and even brought a single red rose, something he hadn't done since their dating years. And in that moment, Jennifer realized. When she stopped managing, she created space for Mike's thoughtfulness to emerge. When she trusted, he rose. That night, Jennifer didn't just get a dinner, she got her husband back. Amanda's real test came when Jake brought home a note from the principal. He'd gotten into a fight, defending a smaller boy from a bully, which meant he'd violated the school's zero-tolerance policy despite his good intentions. Her old self would have rushed in lecturing Jake, correcting Steve, managing the whole scene, but this time she stopped at the doorway. There was Steve at the workbench, tools scattered, Jake beside him. "I know you were trying to help, Tommy," Steve said gently, "but there are better ways than fighting. What else could you have done?" Jake frowned, thinking hard. "I could have told a teacher. But Tommy was crying, and the big kid was really mean." Steve nodded. "I get that. You've got good instincts, but being strong also means knowing when to ask for help." And Amanda realized her silence was creating something she'd never seen before. Not chaos, not mistakes, but wisdom. A father teaching his son how to be a man. Everything in Amanda wanted to jump in, correct the message, sharpen the lesson, make sure Steve didn't miss a single important point. But she didn't. She held back, and what she heard was not a gap, it was a gift. "You know what I'm proud of?" Steve told Jake. "You stood up for someone smaller. That takes courage. Just remember next time, find a teacher first. If that fails, and someone's really in danger, then you step in. Fighting is the last option, not the first." Jake nodded, his eyes wide. Then he asked the question Amanda never expected. "Dad, were you ever in a fight as a kid?" Steve smiled, almost boyish. "Once. For the same reason you were. And my dad told me what I'm telling you. Protect people who need protecting, but be smart about how you do it." Amanda felt something inside her soften. Steve wasn't just disciplining their son. He was passing on courage, wisdom, legacy. He was shaping Jake into a man without her saying a single word. When Jake finally went inside to start his homework, Amanda lingered. She walked over to Steve at the workbench. "I heard what you told him," she said softly. "That was really good." "Tao." Steve glanced up from the wrench in his hand. "You think so? I wasn't sure if I should have been tougher about the fighting part." Amanda shook her head, and for once she meant it with her whole heart. "No, You were perfect. He needed to hear that from his dad. You handled it exactly right. Here's the principle. When we stop micromanaging our partners, we don't unleash chaos, we uncover competence. Steve had always carried wisdom about raising children, but Amanda's constant corrections had buried it under layers of doubt. When she finally gave him space, his instincts rose like a tide. What Jake received that afternoon wasn't just discipline. It was character-building guidance, firm yet compassionate, strong yet tender. And this isn't just about Amanda and Steve. Jennifer discovered the same truth. When she stopped being a spotlight that exposed every flaw and chose instead to become warm sunlight, appreciating, encouraging, nurturing, Mike began to grow, not just in behavior, but in presence, in spirit. Like a plant that had finally found the conditions it needed to flourish. This shift became undeniable on Jennifer's birthday. In the past, she would have carefully orchestrated everything, dropping hints about what she wanted, managing the details herself, making sure nothing went wrong. But this time, she simply said, "I'd love to do something special together." That Saturday morning, Mike disappeared for an hour. When he returned, he was holding a picnic basket and wearing a smile Jennifer hadn't seen in years. "Get in the car," he said. "We're going on an adventure." He drove her to the lake where they'd had their very first date, the same spot where his hand had trembled as he reached for hers. And this time he had thought of everything. Sandwiches, her favourite cookies from across town, even a thermos of coffee made exactly the way she liked it. But the real gift wasn't in the basket. The real gift was his attention. For 3 whole hours, his phone stayed behind in the car. No notifications, no distractions. Just the two of them, talking not about schedules, not about responsibilities, but about life, about memories, about dreams. And then, as they sat on a blanket watching the boats drift across the water, Mike looked at her and said quietly, "For the longest time, I felt like I kept disappointing you, so I stopped trying. But lately, I don't know, it feels like you actually enjoy being with me again." Jennifer felt her chest tighten, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. She reached for his hand and whispered, "I do enjoy being with you. I see the man I fell in love with. I think I had just stopped looking for him." Here's the final principle, the one that ties it all together. People become what we consistently see in them. For years, Jennifer saw Mike's shortcomings, his failures, his flaws, his need to change. And slowly, Mike lived down to that vision. He grew smaller, less confident, more passive. But when she chose to see something else, his thoughtfulness, his quiet competence, his desire to care, Mike rose. He became the man she reflected back to him. Change didn't begin with him. It began with her eyes. Amanda went through the very same transformation, and it all started with one simple shift. She finally began to see Steve, really see him. She noticed his patience when explaining things to the kids, his creativity when solving problems, his uncanny ability to connect with each child in a way that matched their unique personality. One evening, she turned to him and said, "Emma told me you're actually better at explaining than her teacher." And in that moment, Steve's entire face lit up. "Really? I thought maybe I was just confusing her." "No," Amanda replied, smiling. "It was brilliant. You made it click for her. That's exactly what she needed." Friends, that was the turning point. Steve transformed from a hesitant, second-guessing parent into a confident father who stepped up with clarity and conviction. He began taking initiative on school projects, planning meaningful weekends, and handling discipline with wisdom and consistency. "And the most beautiful part?" the children responded. "They began seeking him out. They shared their problems with him. They looked to him with the respect and trust every father deserves. Both marriages moved from withering to flourishing, not because the men had changed who they were, but because the women had changed the conditions they were growing in. Like wise gardeners, they learned to offer sunlight instead of harsh scrutiny water, instead of constant criticism, and space instead of control. And in that environment, love began to grow again naturally, beautifully, powerfully. And here's the question I want to leave with you. Are you ready to put down the pruning shears and pick up the watering can? The man you once fell in love with, he's still there. He hasn't disappeared. He's simply been trying to grow in the wrong conditions. So imagine what could happen if you became the kind of gardener who cultivates instead of corrects, who nurtures instead of manages, who notices what's growing instead of obsessing over what's not. Your marriage isn't dead, it's dormant. And the miracle of dormant gardens is this: the moment they receive the care they've been craving, they bloom again.